Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Deez. This is my workshop, and you may be wondering, what are you doing with that lathe now? Well, I'm fixing it, of course. That's what we always do with this lathe. Keep that in mind when you buy one of these things. Go watch some of my should you buy videos. Not saying don't buy them, but you gotta know you gotta be fixing them. So I am reviewing the pulley setup again, and the reason I'm doing that is it's been a couple months and I just wanted to check it out, but more importantly, I had a couple comments on the videos. They were curious. Number one, somebody wanted to know what the diameter of one of my gears was, so I wanted to measure that and at least provide that info if it was helpful to them. The other thing was the mounting block. Somebody wanted the dimensions of that mounting block for the tensioner pulley that was kind of redesigned. So I took this all apart so that we could review and I could measure those dimensions. And I discovered something that's not good, really. So I need to remake a part, but I'll bring you down here and show you what I discovered, and we're going to make that part in this video and prolong the life of this setup, and then I'll describe some of my future plans with it as we go along. So let's get down here and we'll check it out. It might be hard for you to tell what's going on here. I'm going to insert a picture right about now. That's what's going on here. This shaft is getting worn into by the needle bearings that are in the redesigned pulley up here on the front. I don't know if if the needle bearings are bad now. They might be. I got a couple more I can press those out and put them in, or I'll just see what we're going to do with that. But for now, I want to get this shaft off. I need to remake this shaft because that, of course, is going to create wobble. So I think the first thing we'll do is take this shaft off, get some measurements. We're going to put it back on and put everything back together so we can make the part, take it back apart, reassemble it with the new shaft, and hopefully we can prolong the life of this a little bit more. I'm going to see what kind of stock that I have that might hold up a little longer than this did. This is the part in question, and I posted a picture there earlier, but you can clearly see. I'm quite surprised at how much that is chewing into that, but you can see that's really doing a number on this shaft. The back side, it's a little bit chewy, but not nearly as bad. But this front side, I must have had that belt too tight, or just a combination of everything. It's just putting a lot of pressure on there, enough to just really wear that down. So I'm glad I checked this. I'm glad I was opening that up to get some dimensions. I was kind of delaying it. This is a good idea to check this. So I think I'm just going to, for now, I'm going to remake this part. That'll be this video. But in addition to that, we can look into, I have a mounting system, a new pulley, It came from AliExpress. So we can revert back to the old system and get the lathe going again. So I'm not too worried about that. But what I want to do for now is remake this part here, this shaft. And I'm gonna use some stainless. Stainless should be pretty hard. I don't have any half-inch drill rod or drill to use for this. So I will double check, make sure, but my plan is to use this stainless and see if it's a little harder and will withstand some of this chewiness here. Not sure. This is probably, I don't know if this was mild steel. This was made for me, or if it was stainless. I'm not sure. It almost looks like stainless, but regardless, this needs to be remade. So let's get our dimensions, let's draw it out, and we'll get this thing mounted back on the lathe. All right, let's just take some notes here. We need the total diameter of the material is not critical, but I do need to have it larger than the diameter it mounts because there needs to be a flange. So I'm just going to use half-inch rod. Well, there you have it, everybody. We are going to go with that. This is not really screwing into my M8 1.0 thread pitch gauge, but it is. I tested it on the block, and that's what it is. So this end will be M8 1.0. This will be M8 1.25 when we get to that point. But we're going to turn this down. I do need to do the diameters yet, and let me get that done, and then I guess the last thing would be 363 thou, which is flats. And the shaft diameter. This is important. I got to get this right. Yep. Or 0.315 anyway. Okay, there's my notes. Let's get over and reassemble the lathe so we can get started with this part. Well, I got my part made. I thought I'd give you a quick close-up. Turned out pretty good. I've got everything chamfered and milled down, ready to go. I think really we just need to get this in the lathe and at least resurrect that that shaft, and then I can get on to that next project. But I didn't think I'd have to replace this, but that really was interesting how that was all chewed up. I'll see if I can, when I replace it, I'll show you a little close-up of that thing too. But there's a new shaft. We're gonna get that installed. Hopefully this is going to give me a little bit more time until I can figure out what else to do. Tell ya, these Vevors are full of issues, but don't be afraid to tackle something. Let's get this put back in the lathe. Let's go compare these on the bench together and just see them side by side. Hopefully we got some dimensions that are going to work for us. Well, we got that out of the lathe, and I wanted to give you a close-up here. There's what happened with the needle bearings. It really chewed through this shaft, and it started to chew through the back side of it as well. It's too bad. It was a good design. It's very stable otherwise, but you know, just in a short matter of time, this particular piece of steel isn't going to work. So I decided to remake it, and here's the piece. Pretty straightforward to make. I made it to all the same dimensions. The back side doesn't matter. It's longer, but it'll thread through, and the front side will be determined on based off of how far we screw that lock nut on. So this is our replacement piece. We're going to go get that put in the lathe and make sure everything's spinning, crease everything up again, and at least we'll have a couple more months until I can decide what to do. I may put the original on for now. I don't know. This is you know, there's a lot of pressure points. If you're working with some pretty hefty steel, you're going to end up with some pressure points, but I don't know. I don't know what I mean, maybe a gearbox is the real answer. You can push these little lathes a little too hard, maybe. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm pushing it too hard personally, but I don't know. But there's the original. Try to get you a close-up view of that. And here is the replacement. Let's get this in a lathe. Make sure everything's running. We'll get on to that next project. Well, everybody, I think we got the lathe fixed up for a little while longer. We replaced the shaft that was really getting chewed into. We're going to see how the stainless steel shaft does with the next couple months with the few projects that I have coming up. And we'll see how it holds up. If not, maybe back to the drawing board, maybe back to the original setup. I don't know. Fortunately, I've got enough parts where we can keep this thing running without a lot of trouble. And if I need a part, I've got the machinery to make a part, which is really cool. It's very satisfying to have a problem, remake a part, get it back in action, and here we are. We're ready for that next project. So even though this was a little bit unexpected, I didn't expect to see the grooves in that shaft. I saw it and I decided let's go ahead and fix that and get moving forward to fixing it so we can move on with that next project. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you got one of these lathes and you're working on that kind of a modification, be careful of the type of steel you're using. It might chew it away. It might be too soft. I don't know. We're still playing with it. We're still trying to figure it out. But at any rate, we're back in action. We're able to use the lathe again. Thanks for watching. One last thing we're going to do is harden that shaft. Now that we know it fits, it works, let's take this thing apart one more time and we're going to harden that shaft. I think we'll give it the fighting chance that we can. If you look at that close-up, you'll see there's even some grooves in there I didn't quite expect to see. So let's just harden it, and maybe that'll give me a little extra time out of this shaft before I can maybe buy some drill rod or something that's even harder. I don't know, but why not? I can harden, so, or I can give it a shot, and we'll see how that goes. I can already tell it's not going to last. There's already a shiny spot there. So maybe that bearing has failed and is not spinning. I'm going to have to clean this up and inspect this now. I guess I'm not done yet, but the shaft has been remade, but I don't think it's going to last. You can see that shiny spot there. Let's take a closer look. Let's take a closer look. So we already showed you, here's the original, and you can see the grooves here on either side. Clearly that bearing is chewing into the original shaft with this design. So I put this in, all I did was turn face down a piece of steel. I didn't run it much. You can already see that shiny spot. So something is still binding up and rubbing, putting pressure on this shaft. So we need to do something. We will ruin this within a month or two. It'll be exactly the same as this, or worse, because this might be a softer steel, the stainless. So if we take a look at the bearings, it's going to be hard for you to tell. It's a little dark in there. Let's see if I got a light. See if that helps. See if you see anything. It looks, the bearings look flat. Okay, you can see the groove in there. Yeah, this bearing is ruined. It's toast. So I do have a couple more bearings that were sent to me. I can always buy some more, but that bearing is toast. We are, hopefully you can see that. We're gonna have to replace that. You can see the ridge on the inside of that. We have to press this bearing out and replace it, at least to get more life out of this setup. This one, not as bad. It might be really hard for you to see. Not as bad, but it is We'll probably, if I have two, I'm going to replace them both. I think I do. Well, for now, I think what we'll do, I think I'm still going to harden this shaft, or try to. So that's going to be one thing that we're going to try to improve, is hardening this shaft to see if maybe we can prevent that. I believe I was told this is a harder steel than the stainless, so if that's the case, this will wear out much faster. So set that one aside. So we're going to harden this, and I'm going to press the bearings out and replace them both. Well, here's what we got. It was suggested to me to take off some of this bushing and put another thrust bearing on this side. And so I'll have two thrust bearings on either side. That might help, but I don't have another set of the thrust bearing, so I need to purchase some of those in order to do that modification. So I think what I'm going to do for now is just replace these bearings. I do have two more bearings, and we'll see how this holds up. In addition to that, we're going to harden this piece here. The backup plan is going to be to remake all this stuff and maybe put a thrust bearing over here. Maybe I'll see if I can order one real quick, and if I can get one in, I'll go ahead, and it won't be long for you, but for me, I'll maybe put some thrust bearings over here. The backup plan to all that is the replacement bolt pulley that I purchased. It's the original setup. It came with the mounting block and the adjustment mechanism and all that. So we can always go back to the original design. After all, that did last. It wore out, but it did last, a couple years. So we can get more life out of this lathe for sure. But it sure would be nice to use this new setup and proof of concept, fix it up. I really like this design. It seems to be, it doesn't rock near as much as this setup. I mean, even this brand new, I mean, this, you can see that brand new out of the box. This hasn't even been used. The way that it's designed, it rocks. So, but at any rate, we'll figure something out. We can keep the lathe moving and replace parts if we need. I can keep this thing going. But I think what we'll do is harden this today. I'll look for some thrust bearings and see if we can't shave off some of this bushing to fit a thrust bearing on the back. And I need to replace both of these bearings. I think they're worn out. I don't trust them anyway after this. They're probably overheated or ruined. So let's make some changes here and see if we can improve this. I'm going to take some measurements. I want to buy some more of these bearings and the thrust bearings first. See if we can fish this out of there. Let her cool off. There we go. It was cherry red. Let's wipe that off. It should be harder. Should be hard. Or harder. Oh yeah, that's not biting into it. All right, so we've got this hardened. It's harder anyway. That was one of the things that I wanted to try in addition to the other things. So let's press fit those bearings out and put new bearings in while we wait for our thrust bearing to arrive. Let's start with this. Just down here. That. And I need to grab something. I'll try this. Alright, let's try to push that out of there. That'll work. Here we go. All right. Okay, we've got that pushed out of there. Let's get this one pushed out. Go. We got that one pushed out. Now we want to push these in flush. So here's our new needle bearings. Get those pushed in. See if we can't align it in there. See if I can find something a little more round or flat, like a bar stock or something. Let's try this. Go. Get on there. There we go. Alright, now we can push it down. There we go. That one's in there nice and flush. Do the same with this one. We'll approach it this way. There we go. And we have our hardened shaft, and this is turned down to 315 thou instead of 318. So the theory is maybe the 318 thou shaft that it was before might have been a little too tight, causing the bearings to bind up. And I think the bearings are already, the old bearings are ruined and started causing another shiny spot there. So we are going to reassemble this with a hardened shaft and new bearings, as is. I will recheck it after my next project, and we'll examine and see if we're running another shiny spot. If we are, then we'll go on with the thrust bearing on the back. We'll try that. But it's kind of a learning process to see what works and what doesn't. But for now, we're going to get this put back in here, reassemble everything, and get on to that next project. And then we'll test it again and make sure things are working okay. So let's put this back in. Before we close out this video, let's check out this shaft one more time. I went ahead and did a small project using the hardened shaft that I made after I hardened it, plus new bearings, needle bearings. So let's see how it held up after turning down some steel for a different project. More load than that initial test that I did. So. You know, this looks promising. At least it'll last a little while. Let's take this shaft off of here. I'll show you what I'm seeing. Oh, nope. It's going to wear down. I got one more thing to try, but I may have to just try to find a harder piece of rod to make this out of. But you can see it's just after that one project. It's already shining that up, and it's digging into it a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is refine my dimensions on this, because I'm going to go ahead and make another one of these so I have a spare, maybe two, and we'll keep it going that way. But for now, I got to come up with an improvement here. So far these things aren't really helping a lot. I mean, I think it'll last another couple months, but I may have to go back to the original design. I'll just keep an eye on it. I'm going to have to come up with something different. But for now, we know there's a problem, which means we know to pay attention to this, come back in here and investigate it, review it, make sure it's still okay, or do we need to replace the shaft again, or go back to the old setup. But regardless, being aware of the problem is better than not knowing about it at all and then suffering some big crash. We certainly wouldn't want that. I still like the design of this, but it's clearly not, we're missing something on this. So I hope you enjoyed this little clip. I like to share all the problems with this lathe. That's kind of what started this whole channel. And hopefully you learned something by my mistakes or my experiences. And, you know, if you have any ideas, shoot them in the comments and I'll take them into consideration. Well, I need to do some thinking. But yeah, this is not going to last long again. I can already feel the grooves in this. This, you know, admittedly, I don't think I hardened this terribly hard. It did harden, but I don't know. It's going to end up the same way that this one did. But for now, I think I can get a couple months out of it, a couple projects through it. And I think in the meantime, my next little project off camera is going to be to remake a couple more of these, honestly, just to keep me going until I can figure out what to do. I may try some drill rod, but like you said, if the rod's too hard, then maybe the bearings will wear out first. I don't know. I may have to go back to the original design. I'll do some thinking. May try the thrust bearing suggestion on the back side. Yeah, the needle bearings up here are just chewing into this stock. I was really surprised to see just how much that chewed into that. But it's well on its way to doing it again. So for now, I'm going to put it back in with this one and use the lathe to work on different projects. But I am going to make a couple more of these just so I have them. I'll see what kind of different materials I have. Maybe I got something harder than that stainless. Well, everybody, I wasn't really going to record this, but I think I'm going to. It's kind of a fun process. If anything, I'm trying to learn how to reach some accurate measurements and dimensions. This shaft I'm looking to come down to 315, which I achieved on this one. Basically, I'm making 2 more of those shafts for my tensioner pulley based off my drawing here. So we got 1.5 inch length to the threaded portion. This is not critical, the dimension of the threads. I just need to have 1.5 inch for the bearings to ride on. In addition to that, we have this portion here we'll put some flats on, and then we have a threaded portion on the back. So I just finished the long portion. I'm going to make a second one before we do this back half, and I'll just bring you along for the ride, and hopefully we'll try this different camera angle. Maybe I can get you some closer, better shots through this. So I'm not going to talk much here. It's kind of self-explanatory. We're going to begin making the second version of this, and then when we get ready to flip this over and work on this side, we'll do them all together. So I'm going to continue on to remake or make another one of these to this point. Well, I said I wasn't going to record making these, but I went ahead and did it. I'll tell you, working with this 12L14, get some nice finishes. It's easy to machine, and the reason I used it was it's supposed to be a little harder than stainless from what I did a little research. Do need to deburr where I milled the flats, but these are 3/8, so I can tighten them down. I've got two more replacement shafts because I'm still struggling or having issues with the needle bearing setup. It's already chewing into the stainless shaft that I already made. So I thought I'm going to go ahead and make a couple more. But in addition to that, Dave and I are collaborating again. He wants to tackle it and try to improve it a little more. He's got some ideas. So we're gonna keep going with that. But in the meantime, I know that shaft is probably going to be chewed up not too long after using it the way that it is. Those needle bearings are just chewing into the shaft. So I thought I'll go ahead and make a couple more of these, even though we're redesigning everything, just so I have them to keep the lathe going as it is. I do have the old pulley set up to go back on, but for now, I just wanted to get a couple of these knocked out. I thought, oh, I'll go ahead and share. You know, I was working on, really for my practice, I was working on achieving, you know, a little bit more precision than I usually do in order to get some nice threads and get the shaft where it needs to be for the bearings. We got a little, these are metric threads, but there's a reason that we use metric for that, because the original mounting blocks and things were all metric, so we just kind of stuck with it. But there we go, a couple more replacement shafts. I know one of them, I'll probably use one right away once we get things sorted, but for now I just thought I would throw that in here as well. Who doesn't like some machining? Hopefully these videos for this last clip here will look a little better. I tried to trying to get some closer up shots, but it's a little tough because the machine noise causes some motion in the video on certain cameras. There we go. Well, everybody, it's time to wrap this video up. You've seen me take this thing apart, evaluate it back and forth. I'm trying to speed through all that stuff, but you know, I'm just sharing my experience with you in the garage. But it is time to wrap this video up. In this video, I evaluated the new Tensioner Pulley setup mounting system, realized that the shaft was getting chewed up. The design wasn't going to work as it stood. In order to keep things going, I went ahead and made a new shaft, just turned something basic, and it already started to show signs of wear. That's the shaft that's in here now. I thought I'll go ahead and make two more shafts out of 12L14. You saw that just not long ago. But for this video, this was about discovering an issue and creating a couple shafts and turning some parts that I can keep things going as they stand. This will require either change back to the old setup or some modifications again. And hopefully in the future you'll see some more about that. But I'm going to close this video out with a montage of me taking this apart. We're going to check this shaft one more time and just see what kind of damage is occurring. Basically, I turned down all those shafts with this system, and it was quite a bit of turning, so I'm kind of curious to see how much damage is on this shaft. If it's a lot, this setup's just not going to work long term. Well, there you go. So you can see this is chewing into it. It's going to end up just like that other one, but for now I can use this for a few more months as I'm working through some projects. I do have two more of these that I can replace it with the current setup, but this isn't going to last. I did try to harden this. I probably didn't get it hardened, or maybe it can't be hardened. It was stainless. Maybe you can't harden stainless. Regardless, you can see it's on its way to having the same issues. So there, we reviewed it. This wasn't a whole lot of use. I just made the other two shafts. So we're definitely going to have to come up with something different. I wanted to share that with you in case any of you are interested in that kind of stuff. Lathe maintenance, equipment maintenance, that's all part of it. I'm sure many of you would agree. Well, there you have it. More wear. Got to keep an eye on it, and I do have some more replacements, so we're going to be able to keep this thing going. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If you're looking to tear into your lathe and you just want to see it first, I did it for you. And if you're having issues, I hope you're not afraid to tear into yours as well. That's part of the fun for me, is fixing these machines, and gives me something to do. But that's just my perspective. Yeah, these things can be a lot of trouble, but for the most part, I've had a lot of fun with it. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope to see you on the next one. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps out the channel. And thanks for just being there and being part of the community.